David, good afternoon.
Oh, it is a very good afternoon.
Oh, that's clear.
It's a win-win for everyone.
We should celebrate, that's for sure.
David Moore, Dallas Morning News. Offensively, over these last 4 games, your yardage has increased, your first downs have increased. 2 questions. One, can you just talk about what you're doing and how you're evolving offensively, and 2, the type of confidence that brings you when you're able to build on top of it one week after the next?
Well, I think just like anything, every game plan you put together, you come out and you fit the run to the pass, and but most importantly, it starts with protection. And this was by far, this game against the Giants was our best, protection performance. So I know earlier in the year, we had some, we were a little bit up and down on, how we wanted to play as opposed to how we did play. But I think now what you're seeing this past month is, we're hitting on all cylinders. We're getting through the run schemes that they were able to carry over in the action pass game, and we're doing a lot more in the third down part of it. And this was a huge challenge for us with the amount of pressure and the type of pressure that we were up against yesterday. So I thought we took a big step in that area. So, but I just think it's really a product of us hitting our stride a little bit.
And how do you just measure that, where you want to build as the season goes along, but when you're struggling at a time, do you just stay the course with it? I know you adapt with what's going on from one game to the next.
I think you got to have a long game, and you have to have an immediate focus. So the immediate focus is you have to put together the game plan based on all the variables and characteristics of that particular week. It's just like anything. It starts with matchups. Then it goes to what does the opponent do schematically, and then you break it down: run, protection, and pass. Those are the 5 quadrants that I always operate on at the beginning of the week. I'm just, was doing it shortly, getting started on Carolina before I walked in here. So, but then you have the long game of things that, hey, wait a minute, let's not show that this week, or more so in division games. I think when you play you've been in division games long enough. There's things that you go in the first game and you know that there's going to be a counter coming in the second game, and you see it a lot. My history, my experience that I've been through, you see it a lot more from the defenses to you. So we didn't prepare for a lot of coverage rolled to the weak side based off going in the game, and they came out right away the first snap, and we saw a bunch of it. So that's just all part of the schematic challenge.
Calvin Watkins, Dallas Morning News. I know you had some unbalanced games early in the year.
Yep.
Did you have to play the long game a little bit in terms of getting the running game to where you wanted?
Well, I think the biggest thing for us, and I talked about it at halftime, because obviously we felt really good at halftime, but I challenged the younger players, because I felt early in the year the 3 decisive victories we had earlier in the year that our fourth quarter production went right down the drain. So, and it's important for these young players to take advantage of these opportunities, because they're so special, and we've been so fortunate to get these young players this many reps. So just really made a big emphasis at halftime that, hey, we got to make sure we take advantage of this and keep playing, because when your time comes to play, that's the expectation. So, and I thought our young players did a good job of that.
In terms of the running game, Steele, I'm assuming, had a much better performance, I would think. And what do you think about Rico and obviously?
Yeah, the run game. I think just like most things, and I might be in a minority. I think the most important statistic in the run game is attempts, because when Marty Schottenheimer used to say it all the time. 1 or 2 yards in the first quarter, 2 and 3 in the second quarter, 3 or 4 in the third quarter. In the fourth quarter, you break, you knock the door down. So, but it's a little different today than it was in the '90s of how you run the ball. There's more space, more formation utilization, and the movement. Pass game is, volume and creativity is up some. So you factor all those things in. But yeah, this was a defense that has a lot of volume, high volume of scheme on tape going in, and then you got to kind of, once you settle into the game, figure out how they're going to play it too. So we had some of that going on yesterday as far as how we needed to run the ball. So I thought our coaches did a really good job making adjustments and, giving Tony and Rico some clean looks.
Mike Todd Archer, ESPN. Have you been around a player on a roll the way CD is, regardless of position?
Boy, we had a great group up here in Green Bay. Those guys all had their time and their moments, but yeah, I don't know if I've seen it to this level. Well, obviously it's an NFL record, so I guess not. No, CD's he's at a unique spot, and I think the big thing for us is, we just got to keep working. Make sure we keep giving him opportunities, but more importantly, that the individuals around him benefit and take advantage of the opportunities he's creating for them.
One thing Brian Schottenheimer mentioned to us last week was his work at practice has been better over the last month.
Yeah.
What have you seen?
I think he's a little healthier, Todd. I mean, I think just like anything, these guys get banged up, and and it's to what levels and on the report and what's not. So I think he's he's in a groove. I think he's feeling much better. I mean, he had a couple weeks here that we had to watch him on Wednesday and Thursday.
Yusuf, The Athletic. Mike, you've been around a lot of great quarterbacks. I'm curious, the trust factor, the way that, if a Schoonmaker or someone drops a pass and then Dak having the trust and confidence to go back to him, is that something you coach, you teach, or is that something a quarterback just kind of has to have inherently?
Well, I mean, you definitely want to coach, but it really that comes from the connection between the players. I mean, that's in the locker room, it's a practice, and obviously carries over on the field. But I think Dak has a unique, high belief in his teammates. So I haven't seen him go away from somebody because they dropped the ball. So, and that's an excellent characteristic to have, because I think if you really want to be as efficient as possible at the quarterback position, you got to run the offense. You got to understand what each play means, the purpose of each play, and when we put those players in that position for a reason. So when he can just play with open, blind trust, obviously that makes him play fast, play quicker, and so yeah, I don't see that being an issue.
Does that help the player on the other side as well? We saw Gallup drop that ball in Philly,
Yeah.
then make a big catch in the second half. I mean, does it help a player to know that the system, the quarterback, they all kind of still trust him?
I mean, absolutely. I mean, you look at Michael. He just he's never stopped going to Michael after a play or two that didn't go right. So, and look, I thought Michael played huge. This in yesterday's game. So yeah, I mean that's important, and it's a long year. And Luke's a young man that needs just get going a little more, and he'll learn from it. So, but yeah, it's part of playing with young players. That's what this league is. I mean, it's as young as it's ever been.
Nick Harris, DallasCowboys.com. You mentioned to us before the season and at times throughout the season as well how important play caller's purpose is. Dak had mentioned last night that he feels as comfortable as he's ever been with understanding the PCP and where it's at this point in the season. How have you seen that manifest not only with Dak but the rest of the offense?
Well, I mean, the most important play caller purpose relationships between the quarterback and the play caller, or the quarterback and his coaches, and so it's just not that I'm talking to him about it. It's Brian, Scott. I think the players have done a great job understanding their roles, within the play, and exactly what it means to be the number one receiver, what it means to be the two receiver, as far as where you're at in the progression. They definitely have a higher understanding and discipline in the time clocks of the plays. So, but the play caller purpose is really more and more about the quarterback and the coaches, and I think the perimeter players and the run blocking unit, the protection unit, just them having an understanding of how their role fits within that is something that we focused a lot on.
Mike.
Michael McCarthy, Dallas Morning News. You mentioned the Giants' volume and aggressiveness schematically. Between having that factor as well as Dexter Lawrence, that's a lot that fell on Tyler Biadage's plate. How do you feel he handled that?
Well, I thought he played very well. I thought it's so important not only the way he played but the way he communicated. Excuse me. Shouldn't be drinking soda. So I thought just the communication of that is so critical, as far as the different looks that they give you, the pressures and so forth. But, that's a lot of respect for Dexter. I mean, that's a dominant player in there. I mean, I think the video that he's put on and at the end of last year and this year is, he's playing as well or better than pretty much most guys in there in the league. So that was a big challenge for Tyler and our guards, and so I thought those guys played very well.
Scholar.
Snyder Dixon with the AP. I guess related to that a little bit, you mentioned the pass protection early on here today. How much of it is that finally getting a little continuity with that line that you all had hoped to see for so long, and finally getting them together?
I think it's the most important. I think it's clearly, one of the things that is definitely a challenge. I think everybody goes through it, with offensive line play, just to, going back to how much time they really have to be together in pads, and, then you factor in injuries. So I think it's probably one of the most important statistics or things that have happened to our offense here in the last month.
Jess.
Jess Navarez, Pro Football Network. Coach, can you talk a little bit more about Michael Gallup's performance last night and kind of this game of confidence that he's playing with right now and how that helps boost him going
I
forward?
mean, Michael, just, particularly, the red line throws and the competitive contested catches that he makes. But if you think about it, just you see the opportunities that Brandon was getting, and also CD, and, and his were few and far between. But, he goes up and makes those competitive catches. And he did some really nice things, too, in the run blocking part of it. So, I mean, at TD's, touchdown on the X around, I mean, they got probably they got a better call than we do, as far as the pressure they hit us with, and Michael Gallup makes a huge block there. So I thought Michael played very well.
Coach Jacob Denimore, the ticket. Is this portion of your schedule starting yesterday with the Giants and then Carolina and Washington, playing three teams that are struggling? Is this a portion where you really have to maybe be extra intentional about focusing just on yourselves and not so much anything outside of this?
Well, I think it's a good point. I think, you're always focusing on yourself, and I think we relatively, you would say we spend probably more than most on self-scout. I mean, that'll be no different this week, but, it's an important game, and, it's important because we need our seventh win, and, we need to play better on the road. It's that's really going to be part of the messaging on Wednesday. But yeah, it's going to be more about us, and we haven't played these guys in a couple of years, so just make sure we're on top of their personnel. They've had some changes over there, so just getting in tune with the contest Sunday. Sunday at 1 o'clock is going to be about.
Kristen.
Christy Scales, Cowboys Radio. Rashawn Evans received his most playing time at linebacker. How much of that was a factor of Marquise Bell and being cautious with him because he was limited? Or was it just a rotation? And also, has he kind of forced a difficult personnel conversation this week in terms of Rashawn being out of elevations from the practice?
Well, I think it was definitely part of the progression that we wanted to put him on, and so that was the plan going into this game. And just the way the game went, it was good to get him more reps than probably we thought we would get. So that was great. But yeah, the personnel decision is definitely in front of us, and we have some decisions to make.
All righty. Thank you, Mike.
All right, have a night.